Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of D's Media World. Today we'll be doing episode 23 in my Inuyasha review series, Kagome's Voice and Kikyo's Kiss. So this is a pretty big deal of an episode. A lot happens and there's a lot of Inuyasha Kikyo stuff going on. There's some Inuyasha Kagome stuff going on. And they're pretty much the three main characters of this whole episode. Like, Moroku and Shippo, I believe, come in at the end of the episode. They do come in the end of the episode, but this whole episode is based really on these three characters, and it's definitely a favorite of mine. It's really good. I think this might have been one of the first episodes I saw of the show. I don't remember if I don't know if I mentioned this, but one of the first episodes I saw of Inuyasha definitely was not the first episode, but it was somewhere along these lines. It was around when Kikyo came back from the dead. So, but anyway, I really love this episode. So let's talk about it. So the first thing that kind of happens is Inuyasha's trying to find Kikyo because he knows she's around somewhere. And then there's this thing where Kagome, in the cliffhanger of the last episode, Kagome finds Kikyo and she sees her, and then she tries to talk to Kikyo, but Kikyo basically moves her out of the way and is like, "You're not going to interfere." And it's kind of cold-blooded that she... Kikyo asked Kagome, like, what's your relationship with Inuyasha? And I don't think Kagome either had time to answer or she didn't answer yet. But she has her basically watching all of this. Everything that's happening in this episode. Like, the kiss, all of that. Like, I don't know if Kikyo probably doesn't even care if Kagome has feelings for Inuyasha. But it's kind of funny to me. It is funny to me, or amusing, that Kikyo cares so little about Kagome that she'll just have her sit there, shut her up so she can, like, do her business with Inuyasha. So she tells Kagome that she wants Inuyasha's heart because she doesn't want him to forget her. I don't know if she means, like, she wants him, you could take that in two ways. She wants him dead, but she also wants him to be in love with her, or something along those lines. And this vengeful Kikyo, I think this episode probably solidified a lot of people for hating Kikyo. But for me, I think I understand Kikyo. I think I understand her anger. Like, she says twice in this episode, like, Kagome tries to explain to Kikyo, hey, Inuyasha isn't the one who betrayed you. It was Naraku. He did this to you. He's the one who killed you and pinned you and Inuyasha against one another. But Kikyo's like, what does that matter? That's not going to bring me back to life. That's not going to change what's already happened. Like, yeah, it's a terrible... Like, she's going to be a little more reasonable. But it is true. It's like, well, yeah, they did this terrible thing to me, this person, but that's not going to bring me back to life if I avenge them. I'm talking about the present right now with Inuyasha. So she says that twice, and it's true. And Kagome, I think, doesn't even have anything to respond to that, because it's true. It doesn't justify Kikyo's actions for wanting to drag Inuyasha to hell or whatever, but I understand the feeling of, what's the point when I'm already have suffered the consequences of this? So, Kagome tries to reason with her, but, she can't really do that. So Inuyasha eventually shows up. He doesn't know Kagome's there because Kikyo put her on some type of spell or did something to her where her presence is unknown to Inuyasha. And Inuyasha comes in, they talk, and he says, I wrote this down, he says, I never stopped thinking about you even for an instant. They do this funny thing where they have like 5 different camera angles when he says this. I can't really describe. You know what I'm talking about. Like, he says it, and it's clear that this is like a dramatic thing for him to say. Like, because Inuyasha, the Inuyasha that we're getting to know is not a guy who talks about his emotions in that way, like being in love and things like that. He tries to be like the tough guy or whatever. But when he says, I never stopped thinking about you even for an instant, we're sort of seeing this vulnerability that we haven't seen before. So the 5, it cracks me up every time because they do this 5 different, like, it's like, I didn't count it, but it's at least like 4 or 5 different camera angles when he says this. And they never really use this technique again. I never see it in another episode, at least that I'm aware of. And when he says that, Kikyo actually seems to have tears in her eyes. And I always thought that Inuyasha and Kikyo had a beautiful, tragic love story. Kind of like, not like necessarily Romeo and Juliet or something, but the idea of the tragic love story, the star-crossed lovers. They're star-crossed, excuse me, they're star-crossed lovers, and I always found that really fascinating about their relationship. Because, nothing can change that. her fate is her fate. And then Kagome says or thinks to herself, wow, Inuyasha has been taken away from me, as if he was ever hers to begin with. And I remember I said in like episode 18 or 19 that Kagome at this point must be falling in love with Inuyasha. Yeah, that's still prevalent here, because it doesn't take long. The show is what, 193 episodes or something like that, and we're already on episode 23, and it's like, yeah, Kagome's definitely in love. This at least has a crush, more than in love, with Inuyasha at this point. And she's like, oh, but, well, it's not like he was my boyfriend or anything. I'm like, it's true. He's not her boyfriend. That's something I'll probably talk about more later. But, yeah, like, the feelings that Inuyasha and Kagome have are a little complex because of Kikyo. But even before Kikyo, it was a little complex. Inuyasha says there's a lot of good lines in this episode. So Inuyasha says to Kikyo, it's your spirit I care for, not your appearance. And the reason I love that line is because that's really prevalent with Inuyasha. For starters, Inuyasha, as you'll see more in the show, Inuyasha's not shallow in that regard. Like, you never have seen Inuyasha, like, be stunned by someone because of their physical beauty, or be like, oh, she's like Moroku would be, or something. Or like any man would be. You never have seen Inuyasha act that way. And when he says that, it's proof, because it's true that he is that way. Like, he's in love with Kikyo, the person. Her appearance as the undead, even though it's still her appearance, she's dead, and she doesn't have cold. She's cold. He talks about that. She's cold and she's sad and stuff like that. But her spirit is still technically there. It's angry. It's angry right now, but it is Kikyo's spirit. That's the woman he loves. So I find that really an interesting thing, and it's really important for Inuyasha's character. She says something that cracked me up because it's so weird. She says, even if I use these hands to steal life from you, she says that right afterwards, and then she kisses him. I'm like, he doesn't say anything to that, but I'm like, why would you be using those hands to kill me? That's okay. And she kisses him, and the kiss it's something. The interaction she has with Inuyasha in the scene is really good. She kisses him, and she holds him, and she's like, or she embraces him, and she's like, I wanted this when I was alive, and, I wish that I could have done this. I renounced my position as a shrine priestess, or I would have, or I did the moment I met you. She says something like she, and you'll see later on in the show, it's like, yeah, she would give up. This is what they talked about. She would give up her life as a priestess if he gave up being half demon and become a human. And, it's sad to think about, because that could have been their fate. They could have been happy in that way, but they wouldn't have been. They couldn't be because of what happened. But she embraces him. What she does is actually a bold move, and I actually really liked it. Kagome is almost crying. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at Kagome. She calls herself an idiot, but I just think it's sad that if you ever like someone, she has to have a front row seat of this whole interaction. Like, she's watching this whole thing, and it's like, that sucks. Like, because she has feelings for Inuyasha. She doesn't know what those feelings are or what they mean necessarily, but she feels something for Inuyasha. So, yeah. Inuyasha does hold Kikyo, sorry. And what I said earlier, he says she has no warmth, even though she smells the same. Which is an interesting thought. How does she smell like she did when she was alive? I guess so. And she's sad and lonely. And I'm like, yeah, she is. She's bitter. She's angry that she died young. She's angry she died this way. And so she tries to take him to hell with her. I couldn't help it never occurred to me till this episode. How is Kikyo able to open the pits of hell? Like, how does she do that? Is that like something she can do? Because I don't think in the show we ever see her do that again. So I'm wondering, she just does it. Like, how does she have this ability? Is that where she went? Did she go to hell when she died? Like, there's no talk about that in the show, actually, like, what happened to her during the afterlife. Like, I don't know. So we don't know if she went to hell. I guess she did. Oh, okay. And then Kagome, tells her about Naraku, and she's like, because Inuyasha can't hear her. He's actually unconscious. I guess I don't know what made him unconscious, but he's unconscious. And Kagome, tries to tell Kiki about Naraku, and is like, yeah, this guy betrayed you. He's the one who sent you and Inuyasha against each other. Inuyasha's trying to live so he can avenge your death. All that stuff. And Kikyo says the revive me thing again. Like, this isn't going to change what happened to me. I'm still dead. I'm not going to, I'm not going to come back to life if, if you avenge Naraku. I mean, avenge my death with Naraku, whatever. And, Kagome, this is where the Kagome's voice comes in to the title of the episode. She basically wakes up Inuyasha, and when Inuyasha wakes up, it takes a lot of coddling for him to wake up. He literally jumps out of Kikyo's arms, not even realizing what happens, and runs to Kagome. And I know that's probably where fangirls kind of come in and are like, most people are Team Kagome, though. Like, most people are Team Kagome. A lot of people hate Kikyo. There are very few people who like Kikyo. I like Kikyo, but I'm going to talk about that in a separate episode, or separate video. But when he jumps out of Kikyo's embrace without even thinking about it, he just jumps out, and like, it's like, Kagome, what the heck are you doing here? Like, are you all right? And does that girl mean more to you than I do, is what Kikyo says. And she abandons her plans to take him to hell, and she flies off, and Inuyasha's like stunned. He's like, okay, what's going on here? And then there's a transition because Kagome is pissed off, and she walks away. And she's like, we need to talk. We're like, and he's like, I don't know, like, what happened? Like, what was I? He kind of has that, like, what was I doing? You were watching me. What was I doing? She's like, I saw the whole thing, like, start to finish. I saw, literally, before it even began, she was there. So, that must really suck for her. And then it's kind of hilarious that Inuyasha's like, wait, you saw what now? But she's so upset. And she's like, oh, it must suck to be all alone in the world or something. I'm like, Kagome, you are exaggerating. Kikyo is all alone in the world. Okay? She doesn't even technically belong in this world. So, and you still got, like, Shippo and Roku, so I don't know what you're talking about. And the fact that, Inuyasha was like, well, I'm right here with you. What are you talking about? And she sits him because he's trying to figure out what she saw. And Kagome's like, oh, I'm going to go back to my... It ends actually surprisingly on a comedic note with her sitting Inuyasha, because he's like, oh, they're like, who should you choose? And she's like, both. He's like, can I have both of them? So I guess that's how the true introduction of the love triangle comes into play here. So I love this episode. I mean, I pretty much told you everything that happens in it. I try to summarize episodes in a short amount of time, but I really did love this episode. It's funny at times. It's really endearing, and it's kind of sad, but then it ends on this comedic note, because Inuyasha is really good at ending, situations on a sort of comedic note or a dramatic note when it has to. So yeah, like, this episode is probably, I want to do like a top, I don't know what number I'm going to do yet. When I finish this series, I do want to do like a top amount of favorite episodes, and I'm sure this one will be on there somewhere. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it so far. The next episode is Sango, so we finally get to see Sango, and that's going to be awesome. I realized we didn't have to wait long for her. It felt like, when you look at the title numbers, because like Moroku came in like episode 16, not even 10 episodes later is Sango, and there's a lot of stuff that happens between the episode 16 and episode 24. So yeah, I love this episode. Oh, I forgot about something. Kikyo goes to visit Kaede. I forgot about that. That was the other thing that happened. And this is her second time talking to her. And she asks her about Naraku and like what's that happened with that. And Kaede tells her everything. And then there's a sort of moment where Kikyo is bitter because she's like, I've seen that Inuyasha has a softness to him. And then Kaede is like, well, Kagome is a strange person. She's the one who kind of changed Inuyasha's heart a little bit. She's made him sort of softer and stuff like that. And Kikyo, angrily is like, if I still lived, that would have been me. I would have been the one doing that. And, to be honest, I feel for Kikyo because she could have, for all we know. Maybe not in the same way Kagome did, but Inuyasha loved Kikyo too. So, I don't know, I feel kind of bad for her. That's probably why I do like Kikyo. I think because she is part of a star-crossed lover situation, and also she has some sympathetic moments. She's just angry about them. I think people hate Kikyo mainly because, they feel she's a foil to Kagome, and like, oh, she stops Kagome from being with Inuyasha, or makes Inuyasha confused or whatever. But Kikyo was there first. But anyway, this was a great episode. I loved it. I have no complaints. I don't know if I've had really any complaints about the shows yet. But, you know, I told you there was a song change. The Fukimori, it plays at the end, and it's awesome. A really energetic song. My Will is good. That's a good song. But it's a little of a downer. A little bit. It's a calmer downer. But Fukimori is like jamming. So anyway, that's it for today, for this episode. Tell me what you guys think. What do you think about Kikyo and Kagome's relationship with Inuyasha? Do you think Kagome is more deserving of Inuyasha's love? Do you think Inuyasha should just let Kikyo go, or something along those lines? What do you guys think? So tell me below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.